Good afternoon, sir. It's great to have you here. I feel honored. My name is Suhaan and I'm in 10th grade in GIIS. And I got a chance to approach Atul sir and get a meeting with you and Atul sir separately, just so that I could get some advice and insights from you. So how about you introduce yourself first?
Hi Suhaan, pleasure meeting you. My name is Kaustubh Bodhankar. I am the Deputy CEO of Global Schools Foundation.
That's
It's
awesome.
a pleasure to interact with you, especially a student from our school who's interested in the field of finance. Really great.
Thank you so much, sir. And how long have you been working with GIS?
So since inception, way
Okay.
back since 2002, so it's been a journey of last 19 years.
That's a long period. So as the Deputy CEO at GIS, what's your take on the education industry?
I think the education industry is in the flux, especially in this pandemic, given that the COVID has impacted worldwide, schools were closed. Of course, people in Singapore are very lucky, students are able to kind of go back to school. But imagine countries like the Philippines, like in India, where still schools have not started, children are at home. The entire industry has kind of gone through major change.
Agreed.
Schools like GIIS were able to adapt very quickly, especially the technologies that you are using like Zoom, where all our students are getting educated on a synchronous basis. It's a great thing. A lot of schools in New Zealand, in Australia that we know of, very good schools are doing online learning, but it is asynchronous. They kind of using Google Classrooms, e-learning portals. But what we've really achieved, what GIS has achieved is remarkable, that we are able to kind of still deliver synchronous education to so many students who are not physically able to kind of come to school using different technologies. I think
course.
this is something which is going to kind of change the entire education sector completely.
Definitely. I'm in sync with you on this.
Absolutely.
So I've been working with GSF for almost 2 decades. So have you seen the institution's trajectory move upwards over time?
Oh yes, of course. It has been a great journey. When we kind of started, there were just 48 students, and today now Global Schools Foundation across its 23 campuses has got close to 17,000 students. So it's really an exponential growth, if I were to say so.
Wow.
But if I can kind of bring down this particular growth into 4 buckets of say 5 years each. So initial 5 years of our inception were really baby steps when we started in Singapore. Just on the cusp of 5-year anniversary, we expanded in Malaysia and in Japan. For the next 5 years, it was consolidation, focusing on business excellence, process excellence, focusing on developing new technologies, focusing on developing teacher training. That really helped us in the third growth phase of 5 years, where we were able to quickly grow, have more schools in many different countries. And for last 5 years, we are kind of getting amazing results. Student performers who've kind of graduated from GIIS have finished their universities. Some of them have kind of joined back GIIS as teachers, as well as some of the alumni who are kind of doing exceptionally well in their chosen fields in different sectors. That's an amazing growth to kind of really see some of those students who joined us in kindergarten, graduate from school, finish their universities, and today are kind of doing great, fantastic jobs.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you started with 48 students and now you have over 20 campuses all around the world. So this just shows how much patience and hard work you need to build a company. And what kind of research or due diligence do you do to take on this GIIS footprint and acquire more schools?
Absolutely. I think now we've kind of really learned our lessons. So we kind of look at various parameters very carefully. But the key parameter that we really focus on, apart from all the diligences that I'm going to kind of speak about, is are we in a position to satisfy or exceed the expectations of the community that we would want to serve? I think that's the fundamental point. GIS would not have been successful if we would not have exceeded expectations of our parents, be it your parents also, Suhaan. You are in GIS because your parents really feel that yes, this is the right institution which is going to kind of give you the right skill set as you go and prepare for your universities and for your later life.
Agreed.
So unless and until we meet that or exceed that expectation, we will not be able to kind of do justice. So that's something that we really check, saying that look, do we have the necessary curriculum? Do we have the necessary team? Do we have the necessary people to kind of deliver what we would promise to our parents? Later on, other things will kind of come in terms of technical due diligence, in terms of getting the right location, in terms of getting the right teachers, getting the right leadership team, And of course, since your background is of finance, rather you are interested in finance, we also kind of look at multiple financial parameters to make sure that the project that we will do will become a sustainable school. It will be feasible on day one. It should be able to kind of meet all its operating expenses in a reasonable fashion, so that it will become a truly sustainable institution as we go forward.
Okay, got it. And through your journey all along GIIS, what are the top 3 achievements that have made you most proud?
I think the students who've kind of every year we've kind of getting amazing results, be it the IB, the IGCSE and the CBSE. That's something we are extremely proud of, the achievements of our students. Second thing I'm extremely proud of is the achievement of our teachers. And can you believe, Suhaan, you would know, right? Some of the teachers have been with GSF and GIIS since inception.
Right,
so they've been here for last 2 decades, and the kind of work that they've done is extreme hard work that they've done, some of the smart work that they've done, and the leadership that they've provided to school is amazing. So that's really something that we are very proud of. And lastly, we are very proud of the network that we've kind of built, where students are able to interact with each other. Students from Singapore interacting with students in India, children from Middle East interacting with students in Japan. So we've kind of given this amazing platform for exchange of ideas, for children to kind of interact with each other, try and kind of learn from each other, appreciate the cross-cultural differences. There are so many communities here across our different brands, be it Global Indian International School. We also kind of have strategic partnership with One World International School and the other schools that we have in our group. Those are some of the amazing achievements that we've kind of got, that we've been very, very proud of.
And so you believe in working for the community as you acquire new schools. You're proud of the GIIS alumni as well as the work GIIS has done for the teachers. But what are the 3 things you would change in this course of 20 years?
I think quite a few things, not only 3 things, multiple things that one would want to kind of change. And these are the things that you kind of learn based on your experience. So, for example, I don't know whether you know that or not, in 2007 we started a school in San Francisco, amazing location, but it was simply too far off, and then the lemon crisis happened. The subprime crisis of 2007 it kind of really badly impacted that particular school, and then we were not able to kind of continue that school because of various reasons. But the key reason was perhaps we were not prepared to manage a school which is 17-18 hours away from Singapore. Even the travel time is pretty long. Right. So those were some of the lessons that we learned, and then we decided saying that, look, let's kind of focus in areas, in countries where perhaps the flight time is less than 8 hours. So maybe from Singapore we could very easily manage Middle East, perhaps we can kind of manage Far East in Japan. So that's something that we kind of really learned. Second important aspect that we learned is that we need to kind of make continuous improvement in developing our own team. Earlier it was great, we kind of going to get good teachers, let's kind of go and get them. Education anyway has not changed, but I think that was a myth. Education has dramatically changed. So how do we upskill our team? How do we upskill our teachers? How do we kind of continuously upgrade them, provide them the latest tools which will kind of enable student learning outcomes? And the last area which we kind of realized pretty much early is the focus that we would want to kind of put on the child-centric learning. Perhaps today in the hindsight we feel maybe we should have started in 2002 this particular focus, but it was only later when we kind of went into the detailed process excellence, business excellence models, we realized that ultimately as an education institution, key to what we do is the child and the child-centric learning. So some of those areas that we changed over the years and kind of have further developed.
Was it majorly just the travel time from Singapore and other Asia Pacific countries to San Francisco that led to the downfall of that campus?
I think that was one of the reason, if not be the main reason, but yes, sheer distance, the time difference where we were not able to kind of very quickly go and kind of essentially manage that particular school when that crisis happened of subprime, and that really essentially went down from there, because a lot of people during lemon crisis they lost their jobs. Majority of our parents were essentially kind of were impacted. Of course, we decided to kind of support them, but that particular school gradually, very slowly kind of went down, and then eventually we have to decide whether we would want to kind of continue on operations where it's not sustainable, or should we kind of really make sure that all those students are accommodated in different schools, and then we kind of withdraw from there. So, we essentially then decided saying that let's kind of withdraw. We will not be able to kind of manage this project from Singapore. Of course, we had local team there, but still it's a challenge.
Okay. So you mentioned the crisis in 2007 and then the real estate crisis in 2008, and that impacted a lot of businesses. So on a global scale, how do you see the current world economy impacting businesses all around the globe due to COVID-19 as well as the environmental change?
Yeah, I think both things are very true, but perhaps this is not a fundamental impact. I am sure things would kind of rebound very quickly. As we have seen, kind of GDP of Singapore has significantly rebounded, a strong growth quarter on quarter, year on year. Same thing we kind of see in some of the other markets, some of the other countries such as India, where the GDP growth was like 20%, pretty strong. I think the fundamentals are very strong. There is a lot of pent up demand. So essentially, as kind of travel opens up, and we've seen all the flights completely booked initially to Hong Kong when the travel bubble was announced,
right,
and now into Germany. I think you try and kind of go and buy a ticket, it's already completely sold out. So there is this pent up demand, which is going to kind of benefit businesses to a great extent. I'm sure you must have kind of seen when the dining in resumed. After the heightened measures, there is a long queue. You can't very easily get any booking. You have to kind of make bookings, and then they'll tell you, oh, we are fully booked for next 2 weeks. The earliest I can kind of give it to you is after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I think that's where demand is going to kind of come back across all the sectors, and we essentially kind of remain very bullish that things would kind of look very bright as we move forward.
Okay, I agree. I'm totally in sync with you on this. So what's your personal wealth creation philosophy? Do you believe in investing or saving?
I actually believe in investing, and of course for me it's completely very different, because and for every individual it should be different, because your circumstances are going to be very different, your age is going to be very different, the kind of responsibilities that you will have would be very different. So I strongly believe that every individual should kind of plan for himself or herself and not be very fixated in terms of, okay, I should have combination of fixed income, or I should only have equities, or I should have cash, or I should have gold, or I should have real estate. I think you should kind of think of a balanced portfolio. Definitely kind of look at wealth creation through investing. It's always helpful. At an early age, when I was very young, I decided to kind of invest at that time in real estate, because it was much cheaper. So try and kind of buy. Yes, invested in stocks, because at that time, even if it will to kind of go down, fine. I think risk was very small. But today, at this particular age with family, yes, the thinking is that could we kind of have a dedicated source which is in terms of fixed income. So at least whatever happens, something is going to be there, capital could be preserved, and yes, there is going to be some sort of capital appreciation. So I have a balanced portfolio with today heavily towards in terms of real estate, fixed income, and maybe about 30% towards growth.
Okay, and you mentioned diversification, either if it's in stocks or other investment instruments. What's your opinion? I mean, how many stocks would you prefer to have in your portfolio, in your stock portfolio?
I think it will depend on who actually does the management. I personally don't do myself, so essentially kind of I have somebody else, so I really kind of go ahead and ask them to advise. But if you would want to kind of manage on your own, this has been my experience. Sometimes it could be a gut feel, but really that's not investing. That's more in terms of just kind of taking a bet. It's more in terms of speculation.
Okay.
So if you would want to systematically invest, then you need to kind of follow those companies very well, or at least follow the sectors. So once upon a time, I was big time investor in the telecom sector in India, 2007, 2008. I at least made my money and quickly got out also, because I realized saying that, look, this is not going to kind of go anywhere else because of the competition, because of the spectrum, the way that controversy kind of essentially came out, some of the issues which are kind of coming up for today after like 10-12 years for that particular sector. So try and kind of take exposure to a sector, try and see how many sectors can you follow. That should kind of give you an answer as to how many stocks you would want to kind of keep with yourself.
Okay.
Otherwise, go for very different systematic investment plans, SIPs as we call. Those are available. Great investors, professionals are there. They essentially are kind of investing in whole chain of stocks, because they'll be able to kind of the kind of information that they have, yes, the analysis that they are able to do, and of course the way they kind of track is much more easier. That is something a single person will not be able to replicate.
Okay. And given a hypothetical situation where you have $100,000 to deploy, how about you name 5 to 6 industries where you would allocate this capital?
I think very interesting. If I were to have 100K and if I would want to kind of invest, I'll kind of definitely invest behind myself, because that's the highest form of growth or wealth you will be able to kind of create. Yes.
Okay.
So if you are an entrepreneur, then definitely kind of invest behind yourself first. Yes, thereafter there are kind of multiple sectors right now. If you kind of really look at in terms of Southeast Asia, you really know what are their kind of top unicorns. Technology companies are doing exceptionally well. SEA, yesterday I think their ADR went up by 65%.
Yes, yes.
Great,
It was all
great
over
kind
the
of
news.
companies. Absolutely, I think great companies to kind of go and invest. I think listed companies at 100K, perhaps you will have to kind of go and look that, because that's where liquidity is, that's where trade will happen. Some of the companies, early stage companies, they kind of look at a slightly higher ticket size. On some of the sectors that we would want to kind of do is fintech, that's kind of coming very, very well. Those companies will kind of continue to grow. Technology companies will kind of continue to grow, not so much in terms of companies like Infosys, of course, they are kind of bellwether, but companies which are kind of meeting more demand today, and demand is kind of coming in e-commerce. So companies like Flipkart, they are kind of doing exceptionally well. So identify some of those companies which are going to kind of grow. The sector kind of the e-commerce sector is perhaps going to kind of grow 10 times in next 10 years. So that's the sector that you would want to kind of focus on.
And I believe that when you mentioned e-commerce, I think there's an engagement of blockchain with e-commerce, because blockchain has been disrupting the fiat currencies, etc. So I think that could merge with fintech and e-commerce and give a great result.
Absolutely, very
Right.
true.
And as a student myself in GIIS, given an opportunity, what steps would you be prepared to undertake to provide financial education to the students of GIIS and today's youth in general?
Absolutely. I think we are very happy. A lot of people internally are very well versed to kind of impart financial literacy amongst our students. So we have kind of within GIS team, we have got chartered accountants, we have got cost accountants, we have got people who have kind of done financial management expertise, etc. So within GIS itself, at a senior leadership team, there are significant resources which are available, where we could actually go and guide our children. So if somebody is very keen to kind of start a club on financial management, on financial literacy, we are absolutely happy to contribute. In fact, some of us have kind of taken classes at universities where we've kind of gone and done guest lectures on how to kind of manage finance for SMEs, how to kind of manage finance for growth companies, etc. So definitely we have resources. Systematically, if students feel that this is an area of interest, we could 100% either kind of create a hobby club, or we could kind of create an additional subject which you could kind of take part of your CCA activities, saying that yes, we would want to kind of do that and we could provide. If I am not mistaken, some of our campuses, perhaps in Malaysia and in Japan, also run some programs called as Money Sense, which again is a financial literacy tool for students. I take it that the demand in Singapore was not that high, and that's the reason why we did not roll out that particular program. But yes, if there is an interest, we could also kind of bring those programs to our students for their development.
Yes, would you give young entrepreneurs like me, myself?
I think believe in yourself and essentially persevere. There's always going to be a lot of challenges which you'll always face. There will always people who will tell you that, look, this is not possible, this is a disaster, you should leave this. But you need to kind of really believe in yourself and just continue to try. I think same thing has kind of also happened for all of us. For example, when we were trying to start a school in the Middle East, it took us almost 5 years to kind of get our campus up and running in Dubai, and we've been working for that particular project since 2009. Wow. So it's often sometimes very difficult for you to kind of try and do something, and everybody was telling us, why do you want to kind of go to Dubai? Why don't you be kind of focused in Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, great countries, why do you want to kind of expand? So exactly like this. So as an entrepreneur, when you would want to kind of start something, there are going to be many more challenges that you will always have, and new things will always pop up, some things that you never anticipated. And that's where I think the true entrepreneurial spirit will come to fore. How do you kind of handle those challenges which nobody even envisioned? You as an entrepreneur have no clue how to kind of address them, but still you need to kind of apply your mind, you need to kind of apply your learning. But above all, you need to kind of believe in yourself that the product or the service that you have created, which you would want to create, is ultimately going to benefit the user. We strongly believe that the type of education that GIIS would want to promote will greatly benefit the community, and that is how we essentially always believe that, look, we would want to kind of go to more countries. It's a challenge to kind of start a school in any new country because it's a governed topic.
Definitely.
You suddenly kind of go and land up in Kuala Lumpur, you have no idea what's happening, or you kind of land up in Japan, you don't even speak the language, and from there you then decide to start a project. It's not very easy. But unless and until you believe in your core philosophy, unless and until you believe very strongly that what you are going to propose is going to kind of make a change to somebody else, you should continue.
Definitely. That advice was very insightful, and thank you so much for taking out time off your schedule to talk to me. I believe that the viewers and other people who are watching this will find this very valuable as well. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Suhaan, for the opportunity.